Hey everyone, imagine walking through a medieval city where every flickering candle, every hearth, every tiny spark could turn your home and the entire street into ashes. Sounds cozy, right? Well, not quite. From crowded timber houses to bustling markets and smoky inns, fire was the greatest fear anyone could face. So before we dive into this fiery medieval world, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let's explore why survival often meant keeping a very close eye on every flame. Hey guys, tonight you find yourself standing before the timber and stone walls of a medieval city as evening settles across the countryside like a worn wool blanket. The air is cold enough to sting your nose. River mist drifts through the fields and curls around your boots. Ahead, torches flicker beside the gatehouse, their light dancing over damp stone and muddy wagon tracks. Somewhere beyond the walls, bells ring the final hours of daylight. The sound floats through the mist, soft and distant, as though the city itself is reminding everyone that darkness is arriving on schedule. A cart rattles past you. The horse exhales clouds of white breath into the evening air. The driver looks exhausted, his cloak stained with road dust and rain. You cannot blame him. Medieval travel brochures, if such things existed, really oversold this experience. The smell around you is a mixture of wet earth, wood smoke, livestock, and the faint scent of cooking suppers drifting from within the walls. It is comforting in a rough sort of way. Yet you quickly notice that nearly every pleasant smell comes from something burning. That detail matters. You probably would not last a week out here without developing a deep appreciation for dry socks, warm soup, and roofs that do not leak during every rainstorm. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, feel free to leave a comment sharing your location and local time. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The city gate stands open for only a little while longer. Merchants hurry through before curfew. Peasants carrying baskets of onions and turnips shuffle past. A monk wrapped in a heavy cloak nods politely as he enters. Beside him trots a scruffy dog that seems convinced it belongs wherever people happen to be going. You follow them beneath the gatehouse arch. Immediately, the city closes around you. The streets are narrower than you expected. Timber houses lean toward one another overhead. Upper floors stretch outward above the road, almost touching across the lane. Between them hangs laundry, ropes, signs, and the occasional forgotten basket. Looking upward, you can barely see the darkening sky. Looking downward, you mostly see mud. The houses themselves seem harmless enough. Many are built from oak beams packed with wattle and daub. Others combine stone foundations with wooden upper stories. Roofs are covered with thatch, wooden shingles, or straw. And this is where the uneasiness begins. To modern eyes, the city appears charming, cozy even. To medieval eyes, it resembles a giant stack of firewood arranged by optimistic people. A woman carrying a basket notices you staring at the rooftops. Dry weather lately, she mutters to nobody in particular. Then she walks away. You quickly learn that comments like this are common. People talk about fire the way sailors talk about storms. They know disaster can arrive suddenly. They know preparation only helps so much. As twilight deepens, you make your way through winding streets. Every few steps you pass another source of flame. A candle burns behind a window. A lantern hangs beside a doorway. A cook tends a hearth. A blacksmith's forge glows red farther down a side street. The city seems illuminated by hundreds of tiny stars. Beautiful stars! dangerous stars. Near a public well, several men draw water into buckets while discussing an old fire. The story happened years ago, perhaps decades. Nobody agrees on the details. Some swear that a baker left embers unattended. Others insist lightning struck a roof. Still others claim a wandering spirit carried sparks through the air. No one can quite agree whether the tale is history or warning. Perhaps both. The conversation follows you as you continue toward the market square. Here the city opens slightly. Wooden stalls stand empty now, waiting for tomorrow's trade. A few merchants still pack away goods beneath fading daylight. Sacks of grain disappear into storehouses. Barrels roll across planks. A fish seller washes down his stall while grumbling about gulls. Everything seems ordinary. Yet even here, fire remains present. The market regulations posted near the square include several rules concerning ovens, hearths, and lanterns. Fines await those who ignore them. That might sound strict. The alternative is watching an entire neighbourhood vanish overnight. You pause beside a fountain where travellers often gather. The stone edge is worn smooth by countless hands. Nearby stands a shrine containing a small saint's image protected beneath a wooden canopy. A woman places a candle before it. Then another. Then another. The irony would not be lost on medieval people. They pray for protection using the very thing they fear. But life here rarely allows perfect choices. Without fire, there is no bread. Without fire, there is no warmth. Without fire, there is no ale, no blacksmith, no candles, no cooked supper waiting behind oak doors. Fire is servant and master alike. As darkness settles fully, torches are lit throughout the square. The golden glow reveals details hidden by dusk. Smoke drifts upward from dozens of chimneys. Children hurry indoors. Merchants latch shutters. The sounds of daily labour slowly fade. You notice something else. Many households keep ladders outside. At first glance, they seem ordinary tools. Then someone explains. During a fire, ladders become lifelines. People remember. People prepare. People worry. Even on peaceful evenings. Especially on peaceful evenings. A cold wind slips through the streets. It rattles signs and whistles beneath eaves. The scruffy dog from earlier appears again, somehow having followed a completely different route. It circles twice beside a doorway before collapsing onto a patch of dry straw. Unlike many humans in the city, the dog seems remarkably unconcerned about catastrophic urban fires. Perhaps that is wisdom. Perhaps it's simply been a dog. You continue deeper into the city until you reach a modest lodging house. The keeper welcomes travellers with the practised expression of someone who has seen every possible variety of muddy guest. Inside, warmth greets you. A hearth crackles. Benches line the walls. Rushes cover portions of the stone floor. The rafters above are dark with generations of smoke. Someone serves coarse bread and thick pottage. Nearby, two merchants quietly discuss rising timber prices. An elderly woman warms her hands beside the fire while reciting a charm said to protect houses from lightning. Some swear that hanging certain herbs above a doorway discourages fire. Others nail symbols into beams. Others trust only prayer. Others trust only luck. Most trust both. The flames in the hearth dance lazily. They cast moving shadows across faces and walls. Everyone relaxes a little beneath their glow. Yet every person in the room occasionally glances toward the fire. Not constantly. Not fearfully. Just enough. Just often enough to reveal an old habit shared across the medieval world. Because beyond these walls stands a city built largely from wood. Above these streets stretch roofs waiting through dry summers and cold winters. Behind every closed door burns some form of flame. And all around you, Hidden beneath the comfort of evening lies the quiet understanding that tomorrow's peaceful city could become tomorrow's ashes. For now, however, the bells ring once more across the darkness. The hearth remains tame. The wind softens. The dog outside sleeps. And you settle closer to the warmth, beginning to understand why fire is not merely a tool in this medieval world. It is the city's greatest companion, and its greatest fear. The warmth of the lodging house settles around you as the evening deepens. Outside, the city grows quieter. Hooves become less frequent upon the muddy streets. Shutters close, doors latch. Voices fade into muffled murmurs behind thick timber walls. Inside, however, life continues around the hearth. The keeper adds another log to the fire with the care of a man handling something both precious and slightly untrustworthy. Sparks leap upward for a moment before disappearing into the shadows beneath the rafters. Every eye in the room follows those sparks. Only briefly. Then conversation resumes. You begin to understand that this habit is nearly automatic. Medieval people live beside fire every day. They rely upon it so completely that avoiding it would be impossible. Yet they never quite forget what it can do. The smell of smoke hangs permanently within the hall. Not unpleasant smoke. Comforting smoke. The kind that settles into wool cloaks, blankets, beards, and wooden beams over many years. Looking upward, you notice just how dark the rafters have become. Generations of soot coat the timber like black paint. The beams seem ancient. They have watched countless winters pass. They have listened to thousands of conversations exactly like the one surrounding you now. And they have survived countless fires. Perhaps these rafters replaced older ones long ago after some forgotten disaster. No one can quite agree whether this building escaped every blaze or simply rebuilt itself often enough to keep telling the story. Those who tell the tale never fully agree. The elderly woman beside the hearth shifts her stool slightly, then slightly again, not toward the warmth, away from it. Fire is welcome company, but nobody wishes to sit too close. A serving girl moves through the room carrying beeswax candles. One by one, she lights them from a taper already burning near the hearth. The tiny flames brighten the hall. They also multiply the danger. Each candle seems harmless. Yet the city contains thousands of such harmless things. Thousands. A merchant notices your attention and chuckles softly. One candle, he says, is a blessing. He points toward the ceiling. 1,000 candles become a prayer. You suspect he means a prayer for survival. The meal arrives soon afterward. A wooden trencher holds coarse bread, onions, and smoked fish. A bowl of thick pottage steams before you. The simple food warms your hands as much as your stomach. Across the hall, travellers remove damp boots and spread cloaks near the fire to dry. The keeper immediately objects. Not loudly, not angrily, simply with the weary tone of a man who has repeated the same warning for 20 years. Not too close. Everyone obeys. Nobody argues. The instruction seems as natural as breathing. Wet wool catches fire less eagerly than dry wool, but eventually dry wool becomes exactly the thing everyone worries about. The conversation drifts toward household life. You listen quietly. One woman describes cleaning soot from her chimney before winter. A carpenter discusses replacing roof shingles. A farmer complains about a neighbour who stores straw too close to a hearth. The topic changes repeatedly, yet somehow returns to fire every time. It is like a river finding its way back to the sea. Soon the keeper begins preparing sleeping spaces for guests. You follow him upstairs. The staircase creaks beneath every step. The upper floor feels lower and narrower than expected. Timber beams cross the ceiling overhead. Small candles provide most of the light. Their glow reveals something interesting. Almost everything here is made from materials eager to burn. Wooden walls, wooden furniture, wool blankets, straw mattresses, rush mats, oak beams, dry rope, leather bags, clothing hanging from pegs. A single dropped flame could find plenty of work to do. You run a hand across one of the walls. The timber feels old and dry. Winter after winter has slowly removed moisture from the wood. Summer heat has done the same. The building seems solid, but also vulnerable. Many medieval cities understand this problem. Some authorities attempt regulations. Stone construction becomes desirable where wealth allows it. Certain neighborhoods restrict thatched roofs. Some cities require buckets of water to remain ready. Others organize night patrols. Still, rules only accomplish so much. Reality remains stubborn. Stone costs money. Wood is plentiful. People need homes. The result stands all around you. A city balanced between practicality and risk. Back downstairs, the hearth crackles steadily. You return to sit near its warmth before sleep. The scruffy dog from earlier has somehow found its way inside. Nobody seems surprised. It lies beside the fire with complete confidence. The dog clearly believes humans invented hearths for canine comfort. An understandable conclusion. Nearby, a travelling mason shares a curious superstition. Some swear that certain fires possess moods. A cheerful fire burns steadily. An angry fire spits sparks. A hungry fire crackles loudly. A dying fire whispers. Nobody presents evidence for this theory. Nobody demands evidence either. The idea simply exists. Like many medieval beliefs, it occupies that comfortable territory between observation and imagination. The mason himself appears uncertain whether he believes it. Yet he watches the flames carefully all the same. Outside, as wind rattles the shutters, you hear distant monastery bells marking another hour. Time in this world often arrives through sound. Bells announce prayers. Bells announce work. Bells announce danger. And when fire strikes, bells become something entirely different. Not peaceful, not comforting, urgent. Tonight, fortunately, they remain calm. The keeper lowers several iron lanterns from hooks near the ceiling. One by one, he extinguishes them. Darkness spreads across the room. Only the hearth remains bright. Its orange glow paints shifting patterns upon the walls. The room becomes quieter, sleepier. People settle beneath blankets. A merchant yawns. Someone mutters a prayer. The elderly woman traces a small protective symbol upon the wooden post beside her bed. Some swear it guards against wandering spirits. Others say it discourages lightning. Others insist it simply brings good fortune. Even now, it is hard to tell whether anyone truly believes such customs or simply finds comfort in repeating them. Perhaps the distinction hardly matters. The fire burns lower. The keeper rakes embers carefully into a safer position. This task receives remarkable attention. He checks twice, then checks again. A careless hearth before sleep is a dangerous companion. Every household understands this. Every household develops rituals around it. Some cover embers with ash. Some maintain watch. Some recite prayers while tending the coals. Some do all three. You watch the keeper finish his work. Only when satisfied does he finally rest. The room grows dim. The orange glow softens. Outside, the city sleeps beneath darkness. Yet beneath hundreds of roofs, countless fires continue burning. Small household hearths. Bakers' ovens cooling for the night. Smithies retaining hidden heat. Candles flickering before shrines. Lanterns illuminating late travellers. thousands of tiny flames scattered across the city like stars fallen to earth. Beautiful. Necessary. Dangerous. You lie beneath a wool blanket listening to the sounds around you. The crackle of settling embers. The occasional creak of timber. The distant barking of a dog. A gust of wind brushing against shutters. And beneath it all, the quiet awareness shared by everyone sleeping nearby. The city rests, but it never entirely forgets. Fire sleeps lightly. So do those who live beside it. The last candle finally disappears. Darkness claims the hall. Only faint red embers remain visible in the hearth. They resemble tiny jewels resting beneath ash. Harmless for now. At least, everyone hopes so. Beyond the walls of the lodging house, thousands of similar embers glow throughout the city. Each one offers warmth against the cold night. Each one carries a small possibility that nobody wishes to think about too closely. And so the city sleeps in a kind of agreement. Trusting fire. Watching fire. Fearing fire. All at once. The red glow of the hearth lingers through the darkest hours of the night. You drift between sleep and wakefulness beneath a wool blanket that smells faintly of smoke and lanolin. Around you, other travellers breathe softly. The rafters creak now and then as cold air settles over the city. Somewhere outside, rain threatens but never quite arrives. For a time, everything is still. Then a bell rings. A single note. Not loud. Not alarming. Simply present. You open your eyes. The sound comes from somewhere beyond the lodging house walls, floating through the sleeping city. Another bell follows. Then silence. The keeper, half awake on a nearby bench, barely reacts. For him, bells are as ordinary as sunrise. For you, they are becoming a language. Monastery bells mark prayers. Church bells mark hours. Gate bells mark curfews. Market bells mark commerce. And in the minds of every townsperson, another possibility always lingers. The alarm bell. The fire bell. The bell nobody wants to hear. You settle back beneath the blanket, but sleep does not fully return. Instead, you listen. The city has its own nighttime voice. Timbers shifting. Dogs barking at mysteries only dogs understand. The occasional clatter of a cart arriving late. Wind rubbing against roof thatch. Water dripping somewhere unseen. 1,000 small sounds stitched together into the fabric of medieval life. Then comes another sound. Footsteps. Measured. Steady. Outside in the street. The night watch. You rise quietly and move toward a small shuttered window. Peering through a narrow gap, you glimpse them. 3 figures carrying lanterns. Heavy cloaks shield them from the chill. One carries a staff tipped with iron. Another bears a horn hanging from his belt. Their lanterns cast small circles of the yellow light onto the muddy road. They walk slowly, deliberately, watching, listening. The city may sleep, but somebody must remain awake. Especially in a place where fire can turn darkness into catastrophe before dawn. The watchmen pause at an intersection. One examines a nearby doorway. Another looks upward toward the rooftops. Only after a moment do they continue. Their caution is not paranoia. It is routine. Many medieval towns employ some form of night watch. Duties vary from place to place, but one responsibility remains nearly universal. Watch for fire. You pull your cloak around your shoulders and quietly make your way downstairs. The keeper notices but merely nods. Apparently wandering around in the middle of the night is not the strangest thing travellers do. Outside, cold air greets you immediately. The city feels transformed. The bustling streets of evening now lie mostly empty. Torchlight flickers from iron brackets mounted along certain roads. Pools of darkness fill the spaces between. The night watch continues ahead. You follow at a respectful distance. The scruffy dog from earlier appears again. No one invited it. No one seems able to prevent it. It trots happily behind the watchman as if participating in official business. The lead watchman glances backward. Not him again. The dog ignores the comment. A true professional. Together you move through winding lanes lined with timber houses. Many windows remain dark. A few still glow with candlelight. The watchmen take notice of everyone. Not suspiciously. Simply carefully. A candle burning late at night might mean a sick family member. A scholar copying manuscripts. A woman spinning wool. Or someone forgetting basic fire safety. The possibilities are numerous. The consequences potentially worse. At one corner stands a small public water barrel protected beneath a wooden shelter. You notice several more as the patrol continues. They are positioned strategically throughout the district. Buckets rest nearby. Simple preparations. Yet in an emergency, simple preparations matter. One watchman notices your curiosity. Water runs slower than fire, he says. Then he shrugs. Still worth trying. The statement contains centuries of practical wisdom. The patrol eventually reaches a narrow lane where houses crowd together so tightly that upper stories nearly touch overhead. The darkness here feels deeper. The lantern light barely reaches the ground. You glance upward. The buildings resemble giant wooden cliffs. Beautiful, ancient, and alarmingly combustible. One watchman mutters something about roof inspections scheduled next month. Another complains about residents storing kindling too close to chimneys. The conversation sounds familiar. Even at midnight, fire remains the city's favourite topic. Or perhaps least favourite. The distinction becomes difficult to measure. They stop beside a baker's shop. The ovens inside should be cooling now. A faint warmth still radiates through the walls. The watchman presses a hand against the stone. Satisfied, he moves on. You wonder how many similar inspections occur every night. Probably countless. Because medieval cities understand something important. Most disasters do not begin dramatically. They begin quietly. A neglected ember, a fallen candle, a spark unnoticed, a moment of carelessness. Then suddenly an entire neighbourhood wishes someone had paid attention earlier. Farther along you pass a tiny roadside shrine illuminated by a single lantern. A painted saint gazes outward from beneath a wooden canopy. Flowers rest at the base. So does a small charm made from herbs and twine. Some swear certain saints protect against fire. Others carry blessed tokens for the same purpose. Some hang protective symbols above their hearths. No one can quite agree whether such measures accomplish anything. Yet people continue using them. Hope, after all, costs less than rebuilding a house. The watch reaches a small square. Here stands a larger bell mounted within a wooden frame. Even in darkness it commands attention. You understand immediately why. This bell exists for emergencies. A watchman notices your gaze. His expression grows thoughtful. Last time that rang, he says quietly, half the district came running before they knew what happened. He pauses. The other half arrived carrying buckets. Nobody laughs. Not because the remark lacks humour, because everyone understands its meaning. The bell remains silent tonight, exactly as everyone prefers. A cold breeze drifts through the square. Lantern flames dance briefly. The watchmen instinctively shield them. Tiny gestures reveal deeply rooted habits. Protect the flame. Control the flame. Never trust the flame. The patrol continues. Hours seem to pass in a slow rhythm of walking, watching, and listening. Nothing dramatic occurs. That is the point. A successful night watch is often one with no stories worth telling. And yet these quiet patrols help hold the city together. Their presence reassures sleepers behind shuttered windows. Their vigilance reduces risks that most people never notice. They are guardians not only against thieves and troublemakers, but against simple accidents. Accidents capable of becoming legends. Eventually, the eastern horizon begins to soften. Not sunrise yet, just the faintest hint that darkness will not last forever. The watchmen slow near the city centre. Their shift nears its end. The dog stretches, yawns enormously, and appears pleased with its night's work. No one argues. The patrol has indeed encountered no disasters. By medieval standards, that qualifies as success. You turn back toward the lodging house. The streets remain quiet. A few chimney fires begin stirring awake. Thin smoke rises into the pale sky. Soon bakers will light ovens. Merchants will open stalls. Smiths will awaken their forges. The city will once again surround itself with hundreds of flames. Necessary flames. Productive flames. Dangerous flames. Behind you, the watchmen disappear into the growing dawn. Ahead, monastery bells begin ringing the first prayers of morning. The city survives another night. The alarm bell remains silent, and that silence may be the most comforting sound of all. The first light of dawn spreads slowly across the city, turning the rooftops from black silhouettes into shapes of grey and silver. A thin layer of mist hangs between the buildings. Smoke rises from chimneys in delicate streams that catch the morning light before dissolving into the sky. You return to the lodging house just as the city begins waking. The keeper's already up. In truth, you suspect he never entirely slept. He stands near the hearth, stirring embers back to life with a long iron poker. Tiny sparks glow beneath ash before brightening into flame once more. The transformation feels almost magical. A moment ago the fire seemed asleep. Now it is awake and hungry again. The keeper notices you watching. "Best part of the morning," he says. Then he adds another log. "Usually." That last word carries a century's worth of caution. Soon the room fills with movement. Travellers stretch stiff limbs. Merchants gather belongings. A monk folds his blanket with astonishing precision. The scruffy dog emerges from beneath a bench and immediately begins searching for breakfast, despite contributing absolutely nothing to the household economy. Its confidence is admirable. Outside, bells ring again. Morning has arrived. You step into the street and join the growing flow of townspeople heading toward the market square. The city feels entirely different now. Yesterday evening brought shadows and uncertainty. Morning brings purpose. Doors open. Shutters swing outward. Voices rise. Carts rumble over uneven roads. The smell of damp earth is gradually replaced by something far more appealing. Fresh bread. Following the scent requires no effort whatsoever. You simply allow your nose to lead the way. Soon you reach a row of bakeries already hard at work. Warm air pours from open doorways. Workers carry sacks of flour. Apprentices hurry back and forth with wooden peels and baskets. The ovens glow deep within the buildings. Massive structures of brick and stone radiate heat into the cool morning. People gather nearby, waiting patiently. Bread is not a luxury here. It is survival. Every loaf depends upon fire, and every baker understands the responsibility that comes with controlling it. One baker stands outside speaking with a city official. The conversation appears routine, yet as you listen, you realize they are discussing oven inspections. Even before sunrise, fire safety remains part of daily life. The official checks records written upon parchment. The baker answers questions. Everything proceeds politely. The consequences for negligence, however, are not polite at all. Many towns impose strict regulations upon bakers. The ovens they operate are among the hottest and most dangerous fires in the city. People cannot simply hope for the best. Hope is useful. Inspection is better. You continue through the market square. Merchants are arriving from surrounding villages. Wooden stalls unfold like giant puzzles. Canvas awnings stretch overhead. Barrels roll into place. Bundles of cloth appear. Baskets overflow with vegetables, herbs, and eggs. The square gradually transforms from empty space into a living machine. And everywhere, fires begin appearing. A cook lights a brazier. A brewer tends a kettle. A chestnut seller prepares hot coals. Even the simplest breakfast requires flame. The city cannot function without it. Yet watching the morning unfold, you notice something curious. People pay attention to fire constantly. Not obsessively. Not fearfully. Just naturally. A woman adjusts a lantern wick before walking away. A merchant moves straw farther from a brazier. An apprentice checks a chimney draught. These small actions occur almost invisibly. Habit has transformed caution into routine. You stop beside a fishmonger's stall. The merchant arranges smoked fish upon wooden boards. Nearby, another vendor sells candles. Rows of beeswax candles glow golden in the early light. They look beautiful. Almost luxurious. Beeswax burns cleaner than cheaper tallow candles, producing less smoke and odour. Wealthier households often prefer them. The candle seller smiles proudly, then immediately warns a customer to store them carefully. Even candle merchants apparently spend their mornings discussing fire hazards. Consistency is important. A group of children races through the square carrying small wooden hoops. One nearly collides with a basket of kindling. His mother catches him by the sleeve. The scolding arrives instantly. You cannot hear every word. You do hear fire, however, several times. The lesson seems familiar. In this city, caution begins young. As the market grows busier, you notice a water cart entering the square. Large barrels ride upon its frame. Men begin refilling public containers positioned throughout the district. The process appears mundane, yet these water supplies serve multiple purposes: drinking, cooking, cleaning, and, if necessary, fighting fires. Medieval cities rarely enjoy modern water systems. Wells and public reservoirs become precious resources. When flames appear, every bucket matters. A merchant selling iron tools points toward one of the barrels. My grandfather helped carry water during the Great Fire. You ask what happened? He shrugs. No one agrees. Then he laughs softly. Depends which grandfather's story you hear. There it is again. The uncertainty that surrounds old disasters. Some swear the blaze began in a stable. Others insist it started near a candlemaker's workshop. A few claim divine punishment. A few claim pure bad luck. Those who tell the tale never fully agree. Only one detail remains certain. People remembered. You leave the market square and wander toward the craftsman's district. Hear the sounds change. Hammering echoes through the streets. Saw blades bite into wood. Metal rings against metal. The city seems fully awake now. A blacksmith's forge burns brightly within an open workshop. The heat reaches you from several steps away. The smith works with remarkable confidence. Yet even here precautions surround the forge. Water buckets stand ready. The floor near the furnace remains clear. Apprentices move carefully. Experience has taught valuable lessons. Many of them, no doubt, learned the hard way. The forge reminds you of something important. Not all fires inspire equal fear. A controlled forge commands respect. A cooking hearth offers comfort. A candle provides light. The terror comes from losing control. That is the dividing line. Fire itself is not the enemy. Uncontrolled fire is. The distinction sounds obvious, yet entire medieval cities organize themselves around that reality. By mid-morning, sunlight fills the streets. The mist disappears. Activity reaches its peak. The city hums with life. And still, everywhere you look, flames continue their endless work. Tiny kitchen fires, workshops, ovens, lanterns, candles, braziers, hundreds upon hundreds of controlled blazes, each one performing a useful task, each one requiring trust, each one capable of becoming something else. A monastery bell rings in the distance. Its familiar sound drifts above rooftops and market noise. For a moment you pause to listen. The city answers with movement rather than silence. People continue working, trading, cooking, building, living, because fear alone cannot govern daily life. If it did, nothing would ever happen. So medieval people strike a balance. They respect fire. They prepare for fire. They worry about fire. Then they bake bread anyway, forge iron anyway, light candles anyway, warm their hands beside hearths anyway. Life demands it. And as you stand watching the bustling market beneath the morning sun, surrounded by smoke rising from 1,000 useful flames, you begin to understand why the city's greatest fear is also one of its greatest necessities. Without fire, this place would struggle to survive. With fire, it risks everything. And every dawn, the city chooses that bargain once again. The morning market slowly gives way to afternoon. The sun climbs higher above the rooftops, though in many streets you barely notice. The upper floors of timber houses lean so closely toward one another that sunlight reaches the ground only in scattered patches. Most of the city exists in a pleasant mixture of shadow, smoke, and activity. You spend the next hours wandering through busy lanes, following no particular plan. In truth, medieval cities are excellent places to become mildly lost. Every street seems to curve unexpectedly. Every alley appears convinced it is more important than it actually is. And every local somehow knows exactly where they are going. By midday, the smell of roasting meat begins drifting through the air. Your stomach immediately notices. It leads you toward a large alehouse near the edge of the market district. The building itself looks sturdy enough. Thick oak beams support a sagging roof. Smoke rises steadily from several chimneys. A painted sign creaks gently in the breeze overhead. Inside, warmth and noise greet you. The atmosphere is lively but not chaotic. Merchants share tables with craftsmen. Travellers exchange stories. A pair of monks quietly eat stew near a wall while pretending not to listen to everyone's conversations. The scruffy dog appears once more. At this point, you are beginning to suspect it owns property throughout the city. The animal lounges beneath a table where scraps conveniently tend to fall. A strategic location. You find a seat near the hearth. Immediately, you notice something familiar. Everyone keeps an eye on the fire. Not obviously. Not constantly. Just enough. The hearth dominates the center of the room. Flames dance behind an iron grate. Above it hangs a kettle suspended from a blackened hook. The setup seems ordinary. Yet the closer you look, the more precautions become visible. A stone hearth instead of a wooden platform. Buckets nearby. Ashes carefully contained. Tools arranged neatly. Nothing accidental. Nothing careless. Generations of experience have shaped these choices. A serving woman arrives carrying ale. The mug is heavy, slightly uneven, and considerably older than it appears. She sets it down and immediately moves a loose rushlight farther from a folded cloth. The motion is so automatic she barely seems aware of doing it. There it is again. That endless dance of caution. The fire burns. People adjust. The fire burns. People adjust again. Across the room, a merchant begins telling a story. Within moments, half the alehouse is listening. Apparently, years ago, a neighbouring town suffered a fire after a drunken traveller stumbled into a stable carrying a lantern. Or perhaps it happened in a granary. Or maybe a warehouse. The details shift with every sentence. Those who tell the tale never fully agree. Yet the ending remains remarkably consistent. Everyone ran. Everyone carried water. Everyone blamed someone else. The listeners laugh knowingly. Certain parts of human nature change very little over centuries. A cooper sitting nearby shakes his head. My grandfather swore it started with a goose. The room erupts in amusement. A goose. The cooper nods solemnly. An unusually determined goose. Even he cannot maintain a straight face. The joke lingers for several minutes. Yet beneath the laughter lies a truth. People remember fires, even when details become confused, even when facts blur into legend. The memory remains. As the afternoon continues, you observe the rhythm of the alehouse. Meals arrive from the kitchen. Bread, stew, roasted onions, cheese, more ale. All of it depends upon carefully controlled flames hidden beyond a swinging door. The kitchen itself remains mostly unseen, but occasional glimpses reveal a place of intense activity. Cooks move constantly. Wood crackles. Pots steam. Ovens radiate heat. One careless moment could create disaster. Yet thousands of meals emerge safely every year. The achievement feels more impressive the longer you think about it. A grey-haired woman seated near the hearth notices your interest. She introduces herself as a widow who has lived in the city for nearly 60 years. That means she remembers things. Important things. Interesting things. The sort of things younger people only hear about. She points toward the rafters overhead. Dark soot coats every beam. You can read history up there, she says. You look again. At first, all you see is smoke-blackened wood. Then she explains. Every layer of soot marks years of hearth fires. Years of cooking. Years of winters survived. Years of families gathering beneath the same roof. The rafters become a record book written in smoke. A surprisingly poetic thought. Then she ruins the mood slightly. Also keeps spiders away. History rarely remains romantic for long. The widow eventually shares an old custom. Some families place a small loaf of bread near the hearth during certain feast days. Others scatter herbs into the fire. Some whisper prayers over newly lit flames. No one can quite agree whether these practices bring luck, protection, or simply peace of mind. Perhaps all three. In medieval life, practical habits and superstition often sit at the same table. Quite literally. Near the doorway hangs a curious object. A bundle of dried herbs tied with red thread. Several patrons touch it while entering. You ask about it. The answers vary wildly. One man claims it protects against lightning. Another insists it prevents chimney fires. A third says it encourages prosperity. A fourth admits nobody actually knows. Yet no one removes it, just in case. The afternoon sunlight gradually softens. Outside, shadows lengthen. Inside, servants begin preparing candles for evening. Watching them is strangely revealing. Each candle receives attention. Each holder is checked. Each placement considered. The process feels almost ceremonial. Light is precious. But safe light is even more precious. You recall the watchmen from the previous night. Their lanterns, their inspections, their careful routines. The entire city seems connected by countless small acts of vigilance. Most people never notice them, yet together they form an invisible shield. Not perfect, never perfect, but necessary. As dusk approaches, the alehouse grows busier. More travellers arrive. More conversations begin. The room fills with warmth and movement. Outside, however, the city enters a different mood. The approaching darkness means more candles, more lanterns, more hearth fires, more opportunities for trouble. A young apprentice rushes into the alehouse carrying a package. His master immediately stops him. The boy still holds a lit taper from another building. The master points toward the crowded room. The lesson arrives swiftly. No running, no distractions. Not with an open flame. The apprentice apologizes. Everyone returns to their meals. The incident lasts only seconds, yet it perfectly captures the mindset of the city. Fire demands attention. Always. Eventually, you step outside. The evening air feels cooler now. Shadows stretch across the streets. Smoke rises from hundreds of chimneys. The city prepares supper. Families gather around hearths. Bakers finish their final batches. Merchants close stalls. Children return home. And everywhere, flames begin multiplying once more. Tiny lights appear behind windows. Lanterns glow beside doorways. Torches flicker at intersections. From a distance, the city looks beautiful, almost magical. Golden points of light scattered across timber streets and stone walls. It is easy to admire, easy to forget what those lights truly represent. But the people living here never fully forget. They cannot afford to, because every pleasant evening begins with the same fragile bargain. Trust the flame. Control the flame. Hope the flame remains your servant. And pray it never decides to become something else. The monastery bells ring again in the distance. Their sound drifts across the rooftops as darkness settles over the city. Another evening begins. Another 1,000 fires awaken. And beneath every roof, people quietly continue the careful balancing act that defines medieval urban life. Comfort and danger, warmth and risk, light and destruction, always together, always only a spark apart. You leave the alehouse behind, stepping into a quieter lane as evening deepens. The air smells faintly of smoke, roasted onions, and damp earth. Torches along the street flicker with a tentative glow, casting long, wavering shadows against timber-framed houses. From somewhere nearby, you hear the soft tolling of monastery bells, marking time for those who choose to heed it, while most simply continue their routines, unconcerned or unaware. Drawn by curiosity, you follow a narrow passage that leads to a modest monastery tucked behind high stone walls. Its heavy oak doors creak as you push them open, revealing a small courtyard illuminated by a few lanterns. The scent of incense mingles with the earthy aroma of stone and timber. Here, fire is treated differently, not as a tool, nor merely as danger, but almost as a sacred companion. Inside, the scriptorium hums with quiet energy. Candles burn steadily on tables where scribes, hunched over parchment, carefully trace letters in ink dark as night. Beeswax flames shine softly, reflecting in pools upon the polished wooden desks. Each flicker is measured, each movement deliberate. A dropped ember could ruin decades of work or spark disaster within the dry wooden beams above. An elderly monk notices your gaze and smiles faintly. "We light these candles not just for illumination," he whispers, leaning closer, "but to remind us that even the smallest flame can hold knowledge and danger alike." Some swear that monks would recite prayers as they tended the scriptorium hearths, protecting not only the manuscripts but their own souls. Others insist that charms hidden beneath tables did more good than words ever could, even now. It is hard to tell whether superstition or devotion guided these acts, yet the effect is unmistakable, a room alive with both caution and reverence. You watch a novice carefully pour hot wax into moulds for new candles. His hands tremble ever so slightly, and the monk murmurs advice with gentle patience. Each candle, once set, becomes a talisman, not merely for light but for protection. The novice's nervous attention contrasts with the calm authority of the older monks, a reminder of the lessons time and experience teach. Through the scriptorium window, the courtyard glows with firelight. A brazier burns steadily near a low bench where other monks perform evening chores. Their cloaks brush the stone floor as they move with quiet purpose. Even their shadows seem careful, elongated and precise under lantern light. The abbey bell tolls once more. The monks pause to listen, as if the sound carries warning or blessing, or perhaps both. Outside, the city continues its nightly rhythms. Lanterns sway in the streets, shutters close, and smoke curls from chimneys. Inside, the candles burn steadily, unyielding. A low rumble of laughter drifts from a distant kitchen where meals are prepared for the evening meal. The scriptorium remains undisturbed, yet the scent of cooking mingles with ink and wax. It is the scent of a life warmth, work, and quiet vigilance. You move closer to a candlelit desk and notice marginalia drawn along the edges of a manuscript. Small sketches depict flames dancing among buildings, sometimes mischievous, sometimes serene. The scribe's annotations include notes about protective charms, prayers, and a curious belief that certain saints could influence the temperament of fire itself. No one can quite agree whether these ideas ever mattered, but the practice continues a ritual born of uncertainty and hope. The monk leans back slightly, regarding the room with satisfaction. "Fire teaches patience," he says quietly, "and humility. No matter how careful we are, we must always respect its whims." Some swear that the most dangerous fires begin not with malice, but with neglect. Others whisper that a mischievous spirit can ride smoke and spark. Even now, it is hard to tell whether caution or superstition guides their vigilance. Yet the harmony of the space feels almost sacred. You linger, absorbing the blend of warmth and tension, of reverence and routine. Shadows shift slowly across the walls. Each candle flicker tells a story of labor, learning, and survival. The monastery is a sanctuary not only from the streets, but from the capricious power of flame. And yet, outside its walls, the city continues, ever dependent on fire for survival, and ever wary of its betrayal. As night settles fully, the scriptorium empties gradually. Only the smallest candles remain, tending to manuscripts and corners of the stone room. The air smells faintly of wax, parchment, and prayers whispered in hope rather than certainty. The rhythm of the city has reached this quiet refuge, bridging everyday necessity with devotion and superstition. The door closes softly behind the last monk. You stand alone for a moment, listening to the faint creak of timber, the distant toll of a bell, and the whispered story that fire carries in every flicker and ember throughout this medieval city. The last monk closes the scriptorium door behind him, and the quiet settles like fresh snow upon a field. For a few moments, you remain in the monastery courtyard, watching the remaining lanterns glow against ancient stone walls. The air has grown colder. Somewhere above, clouds drift across the moon, softening its light. The scent of beeswax still lingers faintly in your clothes, mingling with smoke that seems to cling to nearly everything in this world. Eventually, you leave the monastery and make your way back through the city. The streets are calmer now. Not empty, never entirely empty, but calmer. A few late travellers hurry home beneath fur-lined cloaks. A baker's apprentice carries a sack across his shoulder. Somewhere nearby, a baby cries briefly before being soothed back to sleep. Life continues. It simply lowers its voice after dark. A thin rain begins to fall. Not enough to soak you, just enough to add a silvery sheen to the cobbles and muddy tracks. You pull your cloak tighter and follow a lane that gradually climbs toward one of the city gates. The gatehouse looms ahead, illuminated by lanterns that sway gently in the wind. Tonight, the guards seem content to remain beneath shelter. You cannot blame them. The rain grows slightly heavier. Soon you find yourself standing beneath the gatehouse roof alongside several travellers waiting for the weather to pass. The shelter is simple but welcome. Stone walls block the wind, a small brazier provides warmth. Water drips steadily from the eaves outside. One guard stirs the coals thoughtfully. Another sharpens a knife with slower, patient movements. Neither appears eager to venture into the rain. You settle onto a wooden bench and warm your hands. The brazier crackles softly. For a moment, the sound reminds you of the monastery candles. Different scale. Same principle. Fire everywhere. Always nearby. One of the older guards notices you watching the coals. "You've been in the city long," he asks. You offer a vague answer. The guard nods. Then he glances toward the rain-dark streets. Good weather for preventing trouble. You assume he means thieves. He shakes his head. Fire, of course. The conversation could hardly have been about anything else. The older guard introduces himself as Martin. His beard is grey. His face carries the weathered look of someone who has spent decades standing watch through rain, snow, wind, and endless nights. Martin has stories. You can tell immediately. People who have guarded city gates for 30 years always have stories. The challenge is deciding which ones are true. A younger guard chuckles. Ask him about the southern district. Martin groans softly. Not that one. That's the best one. The younger guard seems delighted by the opportunity. Martin eventually surrenders. Several travellers lean closer. Rain taps steadily against the roof overhead. The perfect setting for an old tale. It happened years ago, Martin begins. Then he pauses. Or maybe 20 years, might be 25. A promising start. Already uncertainty enters the story. The travellers smile knowingly. Martin continues. A fire broke out somewhere in the southern district late one summer night. Nobody agrees where. Some claimed a chimney collapsed. Others blamed a tallow candle. One woman insisted a black cat knocked over a lantern. Another swore the cat was innocent and the real culprit was an inattentive brewer. The cat, sadly, never offered testimony. The travellers laugh quietly. Martin shrugs. Anyway, the fire started. That much everyone agrees upon. At first, people assumed it could be controlled. A bucket here, a bucket there. Nothing unusual, but summer had been dry. Very dry. The sort of dry weather that makes every timber beam feel eager to become something else. Soon sparks reached neighbouring roofs. Then another. Then another. The fire spread faster than anyone expected. Martin's expression grows thoughtful. Not frightened, just respectful, like a sailor discussing a powerful storm. The bell rang. Nobody needs clarification. The bell. The alarm bell. The sound every townsperson hopes never to hear. Even now, centuries later, the idea feels unsettling. Martin describes the reaction. People emerge from houses half-dressed. Monks arrived carrying buckets. Merchants abandoned their shops. Children were hurried away. Dogs barked. Church bells joined the alarm. The entire district awakened within minutes. Not because people enjoyed helping, because everyone understood the stakes. Fire rarely remains polite enough to destroy only one house. A traveller asks what happened next. Martin smiles slightly. Depends who tells it. Of course it does. Those who tell the tale never fully agree. Some swear a sudden wind nearly doomed the entire city. Others insist rain arrived just in time. Some claim a saint's relic was carried through the streets. Others credit 100 exhausted townsfolk passing buckets through the darkness. Perhaps all these things happened. Perhaps only some. The years have blurred the details. Yet one fact remains. The city survived. Several buildings did not, but the city survived. Martin pokes the brazier thoughtfully. Tiny sparks rise briefly before fading. Every person beneath the gatehouse roof watches them. Old habits. The younger guard gestures toward the rain outside. Best protection there is. Martin nods. Rain possesses many inconveniences, but one advantage is difficult to argue with. Wet roofs burn poorly. The conversation drifts toward city regulations. Apparently many of them originated after past fires. Rules about chimneys. Rules about ovens. Rules about storing wood. Rules about lanterns. Rules about where certain trades may operate. A surprising number of laws begin with someone making a terrible mistake years earlier. History, in many ways, is simply a collection of expensive lessons. The rain continues. A cart rattles past the gate. Its driver pulls a hood low over his face and mutters something unfriendly about the weather. The guards appear unmoved. They have likely heard far worse. Across the gatehouse hangs a collection of tools. Axes, hooks, ladders, buckets. Not weapons. Emergency equipment. The sight reminds you how seriously medieval cities treat the threat of fire. These tools remain ready at all times. Waiting. Hopefully unnecessary. Essential nonetheless. A small wooden plaque nearby lists responsibilities during emergencies. Who fetches water? Who sounds bells? Who opens certain gates? Who protects storehouses? The planning feels surprisingly organized. Disaster, after all, rewards preparation. The rain finally begins to weaken. Drops become lighter. The streets outside shine beneath lantern light. Martin rises from the bench and stretches. His watch continues. The city remains asleep. Or mostly asleep. Smoke still curls from chimneys. Candles still glow behind occasional windows. Life never fully stops. Neither does vigilance. Before returning to his duties, Martin offers one final observation. People think cities fear armies. He glances toward the rooftops. Armies stay outside the walls. Then he points toward the nearest lantern. Fire starts inside. No one argues. No one needs to. The truth feels self-evident. You leave the gatehouse soon afterward. The rain has almost ended. Water drips from rooftops. The city smells clean and damp. Lanterns reflect in puddles. Far away, monastery bells mark another hour. Behind shuttered windows, families sleep beside carefully tended hearths. Within workshops, ovens cool. Within monasteries, candles burn low. Within gatehouses, guards continue watching. And throughout the city, beneath thousands of roofs, people trust that tonight's flames will remain obedient until morning. A simple hope, a necessary hope, one repeated every night. Morning light stretches weakly across the pilgrim road just outside the city walls. Mist clings to the grass and pools in shallow ditches, glimmering with tiny diamonds of dew. You step carefully along the muddy track, boots sinking slightly with each step, and immediately notice the rhythmic clink of metal on your belt, pilgrim badges jingling softly with every movement. Travellers pass in both directions, some heading into the city, others leaving for distant abbeys and shrines, each burdened with packs, cloaks, and the weight of personal devotion. The road smells of wet straw, damp wool, and the faint tang of horses. A donkey brays somewhere ahead, adding its voice to the soft chorus of a waking countryside. You notice pilgrims adjusting small bundles of herbs tied to their belts, charms meant to protect against illness, misfortune, or perhaps the capricious wrath of fire itself. Some swear a specific saint watches over flames, others insist on sprinkling salt along the threshold of an inn or chapel. Even now, it is hard to tell whether superstition or practicality guides these rituals, but their presence is undeniable, a quiet layering of human precaution onto the unpredictability of the world. You follow a narrow track lined with wooden markers, each carved with crosses and small inscriptions. A group of pilgrims pauses beside one, sharing bread and ale. Their laughter rises softly over the murmur of the road, yet their eyes flick repeatedly towards small cooking fires in nearby inns. A half-burned candle rests at the base of a roadside shrine, offering light, but also serving as a reminder even a tiny flame demands attention. Some swear that the spirits of the road favour vigilance. Others believe the candle simply keeps animals from disturbing offerings. Nobody fully agrees, but everyone respects the warning. The road bends around a copse of trees, and you hear the distant tolling of monastery bells carried faintly through morning mist. It reminds you of the city you left behind, where bells signalled time, prayers, and danger alike. Pilgrims pause to cross themselves, whispering prayers to saints whose statues are mounted in tiny niches along the roadside. A travelling merchant, burdened with sacks of grain and textiles, explains to you that some townsfolk will never enter the city without first leaving a coin or a small offering at these shrines, an extra precaution against fire, thieves, and misfortune. Others merely do so out of habit. All agree that the act offers comfort, even if its efficacy remains uncertain. Ahead, smoke curls from the chimneys of a distant inn, and you notice a sign painted with simple words, meals and lodging for pilgrims. The building seems modest timbered walls, steep thatch roof, and small, shuttered windows, but already you sense the invisible vigilance that governs its operation. Inside, fires will burn steadily to cook meals, warm rooms, and dry wet clothing. Outside, water buckets and sandbags will be arranged with precision, ready for any mishap. Every inn, every hearth along the road embodies this balance between utility and hazard, between hospitality and fear. A group of pilgrims gathers near a roadside fire to share a loaf of bread, their hands warming in the smoke. The fire crackles softly, alive but contained. Someone murmurs a prayer over the coals. A child drops a twig. The parent snatches it away, muttering a cautionary word. Small gestures repeat endlessly along the road. Watchfulness is habit. Habit is protection. You pause for a moment beside the fire, warming your hands. The wind carries distant laughter, the faint ringing of bells, and the ever-present smell of smoke. A pilgrim points toward a small chapel ahead. "They say the saint here watches over travellers' homes and flames," he says. Some swear it works, others smile politely. Even now, it is hard to tell whether belief, fear, or hope is the stronger force. Probably a combination of all three. The road continues, winding along hillsides and through wet meadows. You notice several barns and small cottages along the way, each with a chimney glowing faintly in the grey light. Every building is occupied, every hearth carefully tended. Even here, miles from the city, fire remains central to life and a source of cautious respect. By mid-morning you pass a narrow bridge over a small stream. Pilgrims cross carefully, mindful of the mud and slick planks. Someone pauses to toss a coin into the water, a token for luck and perhaps protection. Nearby, a sign warns against leaving torches or fires unattended along the road. It seems almost quaint, yet centuries of experience have taught travellers to respect even the simplest precaution. You walk on, noticing how fire threads itself through every aspect of medieval existence. Ovens, hearths, lanterns, candles, forges all necessary, all potentially dangerous. Every ritual, charm, or careful gesture reflects this tension, a world in which warmth and light exist alongside destruction. The mist begins to lift, revealing rolling fields and distant villages. Smoke rises in gentle plumes from cottages and inns alike. The pilgrim road stretches ahead, muddy and uncertain, alive with the careful, attentive rhythm of countless travellers who understand that fire is both companion and threat. Even on this quiet stretch of road, the city's lessons linger. Trust the flame, respect it, and always prepare for the moment it might leap beyond your control. You follow the pilgrim road toward the rising sun, the air crisp and faintly sweet with wet grass and smoke. The city walls you left behind shrink into the morning haze, yet the lessons you carried from its streets remain vivid. Every flame you glimpsed, the baker's ovens, the alehouse hearth, the scriptorium candles, the gatehouse brazier has impressed itself into memory, a continuous cautionary rhythm accompanying each step. Ahead, a small village emerges beside the road. Timber-framed cottages cluster close to a modest church, its bell tower catching the pale light. Smoke curls lazily from chimneys, carrying the familiar scent of hearth fires and cooking stews. You notice the same delicate balance everywhere, wooden structures alive with warmth and purpose, yet precariously close to disaster if vigilance lapses. The village square hosts a tiny market. A baker lays out bread on a wooden board. Smoke rises from his oven, thin and controlled, yet noticeable. A young girl skips past carrying a basket of eggs, her eyes flicking toward a brazier at the centre of the square. One slip, one spark, and chaos could begin. Some swear that such fires are kept in check only by the saints themselves. Others attribute survival to the careful hands of villagers and the ever-present water buckets. No one can quite agree whether divine aid or human diligence has greater effect, but both are respected equally. A small roadside inn lies nearby, its doors open to the morning chill. Inside, a cook tends a low-burning fire beneath a blackened iron kettle. The smell of oatmeal and herbs fills the room. You step closer, curious. The innkeeper, a stout man with a swollen cap, glances up and nods politely. He's careful with his fire, moving each log and embers with deliberate precision. Nearby, buckets of water sit ready, sand arranged in shallow wooden trays. Even the placement of rushes on the floor has been considered, so sparks will not travel unchecked. A group of pilgrims gathers near the hearth, sharing bread and soft cheese. One of them carefully sprinkles a few herbs into the coals, muttering a protective charm. Some swear it guards against flame, others say it ensures safe travel. Even now, it is difficult to distinguish ritual from superstition, yet the practice endures. Across the room, an older woman reaches for a candle, trims the wick, and positions it carefully so the flame will burn steadily without flickering onto nearby cloth. Habit and fear dance together seamlessly, woven into each gesture. Outside, the wind stirs the trees, carrying faint laughter from children playing in the mud. A donkey brays, and the inn's dog stretches lazily on the straw, eyes half closed, utterly unconcerned about what human vigilance is devoted to. Pilgrims and villagers alike pass the time tending fires, whispering prayers, and adjusting lanterns along the lane. Every building, every hearth, participates in the same quiet vigilance that binds cities and roads together. The smell of wet earth mixes with smoke from several small braziers, creating a faint haze. You pause to observe a simple truth fire threads through every aspect of life here. It cooks meals, warms bodies, lights homes, and preserves safety in darkness. But simultaneously, it threatens the very structures it animates. Every loaf of bread, every stew, every candle is both sustenance and potential peril. Nearby, a pilgrim points to a small shrine at the edge of the square. A single candle flickers beside a saint's carved image. They say he protects travellers and their homes from fire, she explains. Some swear it works. Others smile politely, unconvinced. Still, everyone pauses, crosses themselves, or adjusts their bundle before continuing. Even on the open road, ritual and practicality intertwine. You continue along the muddy path, noting the small barn where smoke curls from the hearth used to dry herbs. A blacksmith's distant hammer rings faintly in the morning air. The rhythm of human labour, fire, and vigilance continues without interruption. Each careful movement, each whispered charm, each ember managed with skill reflects centuries of experience, a culture built around the understanding that fire is indispensable, yet eternally dangerous. By midday, the sun breaks fully through the mist. The path ahead winds along gentle hills. Smoke rises from cottages scattered across fields. Pilgrims move steadily, adjusting cloaks, checking badges, and preparing meals beside carefully tended coals. The lessons of the city, the caution, the rituals, the vigilance travel with you, following the flame as it threads through villages, inns, and roadside shrines. Even miles from city walls, the message remains clear: fire is necessary, fire is dangerous, and every person, every structure, every ritual exists to balance these truths against one another. The path narrows as you approach a cluster of winter storehouses perched on a slight rise above the road. Frost laces the wooden beams and thatched roofs, sparkling faintly in the morning sun. Smoke rises from chimneys, mingling with the crisp scent of frozen earth. Inside, stacks of grain, hay, and firewood await the season's long nights. Even from the outside, it is clear that careful planning has gone into their construction and arrangement. Every building here is both a store of wealth and a potential tinderbox, and those who tend them are painfully aware of the delicate balance. You walk along a narrow track between the storehouses, boots crunching on frost-hardened mud. A small stream of smoke curls from a low brazier, and you pause, watching a worker adjust its embers. He moves deliberately, sliding a piece of firewood into place and raking coals with a practiced hand. Nearby, a ladder leans against a timber wall, buckets of water ready along the edge. The setup is both functional and cautious, a constant acknowledgement that even the simplest task might spark disaster. Inside one storehouse, you glimpse workers shifting sacks of grain. Each action is careful. One misplaced bundle could knock over another, sending dust into the air, potentially igniting stray sparks from a brazier used to dry damp straw. Some swear the careful placement of bundles prevents fire from spreading, while others trust prayer and charms more than common sense. Even now, it is hard to tell which method offers the greatest protection. Most people use both. You notice a small group of apprentices kneeling beside an old, soot-stained hearth. They are assigned to keep the fires low, monitor the warmth for drying herbs, and ensure the flames remain contained. A more experienced man hovers nearby, correcting small errors with a soft word or gesture. Each ember is watched as if it were alive, each flicker measured and noted. Some claim that certain sparks behave mischievously, jumping unexpectedly if ignored. Others insist it is simply a matter of wood quality and wind. Nobody agrees entirely, yet vigilance continues regardless. A child, bundled in a woolen cloak, passes along the pathway carrying a small bundle of dried herbs. He drops one by accident. A worker retrieves it, muttering a prayer under his breath. The act is simple, but emblematic. Every gesture, no matter how minor, contributes to safety. In medieval life, small attentions to fire are as important as large ones, and training often begins in childhood. Many swore that neglecting the smallest ember could result in ruin. Others insisted the flames were guided by spirits. Even now, the truth seems to lie somewhere in between. From a distance, smoke drifts upward from another storehouse where tallow candles are being prepared for the winter. Workers move carefully, trimming wicks and arranging each candle to minimize flame contact. Some whisper old prayers over the batches, while others check for hidden sparks. The room smells faintly sweet and pungent, a mix of wax, timber, and earth. Both smell and habit serve as warning. Fire is everywhere, yet it is tamed only through attentiveness. You walk toward the larger storehouse on the hill. Its door is heavy, reinforced with iron, and the locks appear complex. Inside, sacks of grain tower like small walls. Bundles of hay are stacked neatly, separated by narrow walkways. At the center, a hearth burns low, sending just enough heat to prevent dampness without risking flames leaping onto dry straw. Buckets of water and sand sit nearby, and ladders lean against walls at multiple points. Every precaution is visible, every arrangement deliberate. Even the smallest misstep could have far-reaching consequences. The winter wind whistles along the ridge, and you notice birds circling overhead, perhaps disturbed by the smell of smoke or the movement below. A worker adjusts the roof ladder, securing it with rope. Others begin covering stacks with tarps or additional straw to reduce exposure to drafts. Everything in the storehouse is placed with care, and that care extends to the next village, the next market, the next city beyond. The vigilance practiced here is a thread connecting countless households across the region. You pause beside a small brazier used to dry herbs for medicinal purposes. Smoke curls upward in a thin, grey spiral. The work is ancient. Some swear that certain herbs protect homes from fire when burned in the right order. Others argue it is nothing more than superstition. Regardless, the ritual continues. The combination of observation, habit, and belief keeps life functioning in these fragile spaces. By mid-afternoon, the sun dips lower in the sky. Shadows stretch across the storehouses. You notice the workers wiping sweat and frost from their brows, checking embers and preparing for evening. Even in winter, every fire requires attention, every ember managed carefully. The knowledge passed from master to apprentice ensures that the fragile balance between survival and destruction persists. Stepping outside, you survey the cluster of storehouses from the hilltop. Smoke rises gently. Workers move methodically, and every roof and stack seems a monument to careful management. Fire threads through every action here, just as it threads through the entire medieval world necessary, dangerous, revered, and respected. The city you left behind, the pilgrim road you crossed, the inns and alehouses, they all share this same rhythm, awareness, preparation, caution. Small gestures repeated endlessly to tame a force that could, at any moment, turn warmth into ruin. And here, among winter storehouses, you feel the weight of that same ancient responsibility pressing softly, insistently, upon every building, every worker, every flicker of flame. By late afternoon, the road carries you toward a manor court at the edge of the city's outer district. The manor stands solemnly on a rise, its stone walls grey against the lowering sky, chimneys puffing gentle streams of smoke that mingle with the scent of damp earth and hearth fires from the surrounding cottages. A few villagers linger near the gate, speaking in low voices, while others tend small fires used to heat kettles or dry damp wool. The entire scene feels like a balance between authority and daily life, with fire threaded carefully through both. You step inside the manor yard, where wooden carts creak and horses shuffle, their hooves leaving shallow tracks in the mud. Guards patrol calmly, keeping an eye on both visitors and the fire that warms the kitchens. Inside the main hall, sunlight streams through narrow windows, illuminating timber beams darkened with centuries of smoke. A large hearth dominates the space, a roaring blaze contained behind iron brackets. A low, comforting warmth spreads across the stone floor. The manor court is assembling. Neighbours, tradespeople, and townsfolk gather to discuss a recent spark that nearly ignited a storage loft. Voices rise and fall, some tinged with accusation, others with explanation. One woman insists that a neighbour left embers unattended. Another claims the smoke came from careless children playing near the fire. The magistrate listens patiently, glancing at parchments that detail fines, obligations, and past incidents. Even in discussion, attention to fire dominates. One clerk rolls a small ledger across the bench, noting every household's previous infractions, every precaution, every unresolved dispute. Some swear that this meticulous record-keeping prevents fires. Others insist it is useless. Still, nobody disputes its authority. The room is a mixture of practicality and ritual flames of the hearth, smoke rising through chimneys, and conversation weaving caution into the community's law. A child runs past, clutching a small bundle of herbs tied with red string. A clerk frowns, reminding the parent to keep children away from open flames. The habit is ingrained. It is repeated countless times daily, across homes, markets, and inns. Each correction, each gesture, maintains the balance between survival and disaster. Even a minor lapse, everyone knows, could lead to serious consequences. You notice a bundle of dried herbs hanging near the entrance, tied carefully with red cord. Some swear it protects the hall from fire. Others insist it encourages favour from local saints. No one fully agrees on its purpose, yet all respect its presence. Tradition, superstition, and practical precaution blend seamlessly, just as the city has taught you over these days. The magistrate begins to speak, recounting incidents from the past year. One story involves a straw loft nearly destroyed during a festival when a candle fell unnoticed. Another recalls a smith's apprentice who ignored a brazier, causing minor damage to a neighbouring workshop. Each tale carries a lesson, often repeated by storytellers in slightly differing versions. Some swear that the incidents were divine tests. Others insist on human negligence, even now. It is hard to tell which perspective holds sway. The conversation turns toward remedies and prevention. Buckets are stationed strategically, chimneys are checked for blockages, ashes are removed regularly, protective charms hang at doors. The community takes these measures seriously, knowing that even small oversights can have large consequences. Some practices are practical, others are symbolic. The distinction matters little. Both serve to maintain attention and awareness. Outside, the light begins to soften. Long shadows stretch across the manor yard. The smell of hearth smoke, drying herbs, and warming meals fills the air. A dog curls near a fire pit, watching the proceedings with the detached patience of a creature accustomed to human habits. Its calmness is a contrast to the tension surrounding the court, yet it fits seamlessly into the rhythm of life here. A messenger arrives, announcing a fire drill for nearby workshops and storage areas. Some villagers groan quietly, others nod with relief. These exercises, while tedious, are accepted as necessary. The risk of flames escaping is ever present, and preparation is the best defence. Even minor sparks, when multiplied across timber buildings and straw-filled lofts, can escalate quickly. The court disperses as evening approaches. Neighbours leave, carefully checking lanterns and extinguishing candles. Children are corralled indoors. The magistrate retires to his quarters, where a small hearth awaits. Water buckets remain by the door. Ashes lie neatly contained in iron pans. Every precaution is observed, every detail managed. You linger briefly in the hall, noticing how fire governs even subtle gestures. The placement of benches, the arrangement of rushes, the handling of ink and parchment, each choice mitigates risk. The awareness is constant, yet never oppressive. It is woven into the very fabric of life. Outside, the first stars begin to appear. Smoke from chimneys rises gently, mingling with the twilight. The city, the manor, the surrounding countryside all pulse with quiet vigilance, a symphony of warmth, light, and careful attention. The long shadow of evening reminds you that flames will continue to burn, even as darkness deepens. And throughout this medieval world, every ember, every hearth, and every candle remains both a tool and a silent teacher. Evening settles fully by the time you leave the manor court. The last traces of daylight fade behind distant hills, and the sky becomes a deep blue canopy stretched over the medieval world. Smoke rises from cottages and workshops in long grey ribbons. The smell follows you everywhere now, after so many days among hearths, ovens, braziers, candles, and chimneys. You almost stop noticing it. Almost? A cold breeze brushes across the road. You pull your cloak tighter and continue toward the city's inner district, where the silhouette of a great keep rises above the rooftops. Its towers catch the last lingering light. Its walls seem eternal. Compared to the timber houses clustered below, the castle appears safe, solid, permanent, fireproof, perhaps. That assumption lasts approximately 3 minutes. The gate guards quickly correct it. "Stone doesn't burn," one remarks while examining a lantern. "Everything inside does." A fair point. The keep welcomes you through a heavy gate reinforced with iron bands. Torches illuminate the passageway. Their flames flicker against stone walls polished smooth by centuries of footsteps. Inside, servants move briskly through courtyards. Messengers hurry between buildings. Stable boys lead horses towards shelter. The castle remains alive with activity despite the late hour. And everywhere you look, fire continues its endless work. Torches burn along walls. Lanterns hang from hooks. Kitchen chimneys pour smoke into the night. Windows glow warmly from within. The keep may possess stone defences, but it depends upon flame just as completely as any village cottage. A steward crossing the courtyard notices your curiosity. You think castles fear armies. He smiles. Castles fear kitchens. Another fair point. He gestures for you to follow. Soon you find yourself entering the great kitchen. Immediately, warmth surrounds you. Massive hearths dominate one wall. Fires roar beneath iron spits and hanging kettles. Cooks move in every direction at once. The scene resembles organized chaos. Or perhaps chaotic organization. Either way, it functions. Barely. A cook carrying onions narrowly avoids colliding with another carrying a tray of bread. Someone stirs a pot. Someone else feeds wood into a furnace. Apprentices rush back and forth under the watchful eyes of senior staff. Yet beneath the apparent confusion lies remarkable discipline. Water buckets stand nearby. Sand containers line the walls. Fire tools hang neatly arranged. Nothing is left to chance. Too much depends upon these kitchens. A head cook notices you examining a row of iron hooks. "Everyone has a purpose," she says. The statement applies equally well to the entire kitchen. Everything has a place. Everything follows rules. Because kitchens produce some of the largest indoor fires in the castle. And some of the greatest risks. A young apprentice accidentally drops a spoon. The resulting noise startles several people. The apprentice apologizes immediately. The head cook barely reacts. Mistakes happen. Carelessness does not. The distinction matters. You continue through the keep, guided by a servant carrying a lantern. The corridors feel quieter away from the kitchens. Stone walls muffle sound. Rushes soften footsteps. Tapestries hang along certain passages, adding colour and warmth. And also, you realise, adding more things capable of burning. The servant seems to read your thoughts. That's why we keep lanterns away from them. He points toward carefully positioned iron brackets. Once again, precaution reveals itself. Not dramatic. Not obvious. Simply woven into daily life. The castle chapel provides another example. Inside, dozens of candles glow before a small altar. The atmosphere feels peaceful, almost magical. Golden light dances across stone columns. Shadows drift softly along the walls. Beautiful. And yet a monk quietly moves among the candles, checking each one. Trimming wicks. Adjusting holders. Removing excess wax. Beauty requires maintenance. Safety requires attention. Both are ongoing responsibilities. A noble woman kneels nearby in prayer. Before leaving, she lights another candle. Some swear that certain saints guard homes from fire. Others pray for protection during storms. Others simply seek comfort. No one can quite agree whether the candles influence fate, but they continue lighting them nonetheless. Hope remains remarkably persistent. Farther within the keep, you discover sleeping chambers. These rooms appear safer than crowded city houses. Larger, better built, more spacious. Yet even here precautions abound. Lanterns are carefully managed. Candles rest in sturdy holders. Hearths receive constant supervision. Servants inspect rooms before nightfall. Because status may change many things, it does not change the behavior of fire. A spark ignores titles. An ember respects no rank. The lesson seems universal. You eventually climb a tower staircase spiraling upward through stone walls. The ascent feels endless. Medieval architects clearly believed stairs should serve as both transportation and punishment. By the time you reach the top, your legs strongly support this theory. The view, however, rewards the effort. The entire city spreads beneath you. Countless rooftops, narrow streets, dark courtyards, church towers, market squares, and lights. So many lights. Candles glowing behind windows, lanterns marking roads, torches illuminating gates, hearth fires flickering through chimneys. The city resembles a field of stars scattered across the earth. Beautiful, fragile. From this height, you can almost forget the danger. Almost. Then you remember Martin's stories. The watchman, the monastery, the market, the alehouse, the storehouses. Every place you visited shares the same relationship with flame. Dependence mixed with caution. Trust mixed with fear. A castle changes none of that. Behind you, a castle guard joins the view. He studies the city quietly, then points toward a distant district. Fire there once. His description is brief. Very brief. Apparently guards prefer concise storytelling. Still, he explains enough. Years ago, flames spread through several streets before being stopped. The district rebuilt. Life continued. The memory remained, like soot upon rafters, like stories passed between generations, like regulations written after disasters. The guard eventually descends the stairs, leaving you alone with the view. The city glows peacefully beneath the night sky. No alarm bells ring. No smoke rises beyond ordinary chimneys. No emergency disturbs the evening. Exactly as everyone hopes. Below, families gather around hearths. Servants extinguish unnecessary candles. Monks complete evening prayers. Watchmen begin patrols. Dogs search for scraps. The familiar rhythm continues. A rhythm powered by fire. Protected from fire. And always conscious of fire. At last you descend from the tower. The keep settles into nighttime quiet. Lanterns burn lower. Corridors empty. Kitchen fires reduced to manageable embers. Throughout the castle, people perform the same nightly rituals you've seen everywhere else. Checking flames, securing lanterns, raking coals, trusting that morning will arrive without incident. A simple hope, one repeated in castles and cottages alike, because stone walls may protect against enemies beyond the gates. But inside those walls, the ancient bargain remains unchanged. Fire gives comfort. Fire gives life. And if neglected, fire can take both away. Night deepens over the city, yet the streets continue their quiet rhythm. Smoke drifts lazily from chimneys, mingling with the cool evening air. The faint smell of pottage and roasting bread wafts from the inn, blending with the distant tang of wet timber and mossy stone. From a high vantage point, rooftops appear calm, orderly, yet beneath that calm lies the city's constant tension, the ever-present awareness of flame. You wander through the narrow lanes, following the faint light of lanterns. Their glow reflects in puddles and on the wet cobbles. The city feels almost sleepy, but every shadow seems alive with possibility. A child scurries home, clutching a small bundle of herbs. A baker extinguishes a last candle in a side window. The rhythm is subtle, continuous, familiar. It is a dance practiced over generations' vigilance, care, and a hint of superstition. Suddenly, a wisp of smoke curls from an alleyway, not alarming perhaps a small hearth or a discarded ember, but it draws the attention of two watchmen stationed nearby. They pause, hands instinctively moving toward water buckets. Their lanterns sway as they approach the source, checking, listening. Small sparks can grow quickly, their response is practiced, nearly unconscious. You realize once again how every action in this city revolves around the management of flame. The alley clears, the smoke disappears. The danger, if it ever existed, passes unnoticed. Life resumes its quiet cadence. You continue onward, passing a chapel with a single candle burning beside a saint statue. Travellers pause briefly to cross themselves. Some whisper prayers over the flame. Others merely glance, acknowledging the ritual without participation. Every small act underscores a central truth: fire is essential, yet perilous, and every precaution counts. You reach a section of the city with tightly packed timber houses. The upper stories lean precariously toward one another, creating narrow, shadowed streets below. A blacksmith's forge glows faintly through an open window, and a few apprentices move carefully around coals and sparks. Each step, each gesture, is infused with awareness. A dropped ember could ignite straw, cloth, or timber in an instant. A merchant shuts his shuttered stall, placing a bucket of water nearby. His neighbours do the same. A stray dog pads quietly along the street, oblivious to danger but aware of human caution. Small rituals: adjusting a lantern, trimming a candle, placing water near vulnerable spots, repeat endlessly. These acts are both mundane and vital, a testament to lived experience in a world where flames provide warmth and threaten devastation simultaneously. You pause near a public well, observing the lanterns reflected in the water. Some townsfolk carry small buckets, preparing for any eventuality. A bell tolls from the distant abbey, marking the hour with sombre regularity. The sound serves as both timekeeper and gentle reminder the city exists in constant dialogue with fire. A few minutes later, you find yourself in a quiet courtyard behind an inn. Guests share bread and ale near a modest brazier. One of them tosses a pinch of herbs onto the coals, muttering a charm against misfortune. Another carefully adjusts a candle to avoid accidental ignition. Some swear these gestures have mystical power, others see them as practical. Regardless, the shared care for fire creates a subtle communal bond. The streets around the inn grow quieter. Smoke rises from chimneys in long, thin columns. Lanterns glow softly, reflecting on stone walls and puddled streets. You watch as the rhythm of human attention continues, from simple tasks like stirring coals to elaborate rituals meant to protect homes and hearths. Each act, no matter how small, contributes to the city's survival. A sudden gust of wind stirs the alleyways. A candle flickers. A chimney coughs smoke. A dog shifts on its bed of straw. You notice these minor movements, almost instinctively. The city is alive with flame and vigilance, a delicate interplay that never truly ceases. Every resident participates knowingly or unknowingly in the ongoing negotiation between comfort and danger. By late evening, the city settles further into itself. Fires burn steadily, coals smoulder quietly, and watchmen patrol with practiced calm. Small charms hang in doorways, protective rituals continue, and smoke curls in every direction. The balance persists, neither perfect nor guaranteed, but maintained with patience, habit, and attention. The night deepens. Lanterns glow steadily along streets. Candles illuminate windows. Hearths radiate warmth. And as you walk quietly beneath the high timbered eaves, you sense the subtle, persistent lesson woven through every corner of the city. To live here is to respect flame, to manage it, and to carry its risks with careful, unending attention. The night stretches long and quiet as you leave the inn's courtyard, moving toward the more residential quarters of the city. Narrow lanes twist and turn, bordered by timber-framed houses whose upper stories lean toward one another like tired travellers huddled together. Smoke rises from chimneys, curling lazily into the dark sky, while the occasional flicker of a candle in a window hints at activity within. The city feels simultaneously peaceful and precarious, as if each household is aware that comfort is inseparable from risk. You pass a small garden where a widow tends herbs by lantern light. Rosemary, thyme, and sage emit faint fragrances that mingle with the lingering scent of wood smoke. She hums softly, stirring a small brazier to dry leaves for winter remedies. Some swear that certain herbs prevent fires, others that they bring luck. Even now, it is hard to tell whether her actions are superstition, practicality, or both, but she performs them with care. And you notice the repetition of gestures learned over decades. Further along, a young apprentice carries coals from one hearth to another, balancing the glowing embers in a small iron pan. A neighbour calls out a reminder to keep the coals clear of the wooden steps, and the apprentice nods solemnly. Each movement is deliberate, almost ritualized, as though even the smallest slip might cascade into disaster. The apprentice's awareness reflects centuries of knowledge embedded in the city's culture. Fire is both sustenance and threat, requiring constant vigilance. A dog, tail wagging, passes alongside a group of late-night travellers. It pauses near a brazier, sniffing cautiously, then lies down contentedly on the straw-strewn street. The city's non-human residents, like the dog, seem oblivious to danger, yet their presence underscores the human attention to risk. Every household has routines, every street is patrolled, every flame observed. These rhythms bind the city together, invisible threads connecting lives through shared vigilance. You approach a small workshop where a blacksmith tends a dying forge, carefully adjusting coals before extinguishing the fire for the night. The glow reflects off tools and walls, painting long shadows. A lantern hangs nearby, trimmed and secured, a testament to the careful habits that define the evening. Sparks occasionally drift upward, but none escape containment. Every ember is watched, every precaution taken. Some swear that careless sparks carry misfortune. Others attribute it to human error. Even now, it is hard to know which belief governs most hearts, but the effect is the same. Caution is constant. A bell tolls from a distant monastery, its sound drifting across rooftops and cobbled streets. The rhythm of the night seems to respond to it. Shutters close, steps quicken, and candles are adjusted. You notice a faint glimmer of light from a chapel where a small vigil continues. Monks tend their candles, trimming wicks, moving them carefully, whispering prayers over each flame. Some swear that saints watch over flames, others insist ritual guides human hands. No one fully agrees. Yet the vigilance is unquestionable. Passing under an archway, you enter a quieter street. Smoke curls from a single hearth behind a shuttered window, small and steady. The scent is faint, yet reassuring. A woman hums softly as she stirs her evening pottage, her movements slow, deliberate. She glances occasionally at the hearth, making minor adjustments to the logs. Every household performs similar acts tending fire, ensuring safety, preserving warmth. Simple, repeated gestures that maintain life while managing risk. Near the edge of the district, a small shrine sits beneath an overhanging eave. A candle flickers beside a carved saint's image, its glow illuminating offerings of bread and herbs. Travellers pass, crossing themselves, whispering prayers. Some believe the flame offers protection. Others believe it is the act of devotion itself that matters. Even now, it is difficult to separate faith from caution, superstition from necessity. Yet both serve the same purpose: to preserve life, to guard against the unpredictable. You pause to observe the city from this vantage. Roofs stretch in close-packed rows, alleys wind into shadowed nooks, and every hearth, brazier, and candle forms part of a larger rhythm. Watchmen patrol at intervals, dogs wander streets, lanterns glow softly, casting gentle reflections on wet cobbles. Fire threads through the city as it always has, a constant companion, servant, and potential adversary. Even as night deepens, you recognize a pattern-controlled flame, careful attention, repeated rituals, and shared vigilance. These are the threads that allow the city to persist, to thrive, to endure through centuries of warmth and destruction. Each person, each household, each small action contributes to an intricate network of preparedness. Mistakes are costly, but careful practice, observation, and even superstition combine to prevent calamity. The streets grow quieter, the city rests, yet the fires remain alive. You pause beside a lantern, noticing the subtle dance of shadows on stone walls. The world feels fragile, alive, and intimate. Fire gives warmth, light, and sustenance, but it is never fully tamed. Every ember holds potential for both life and ruin. The knowledge of this balance pervades every gesture, every glance, every whispered precaution across the city. Tonight, like every night, the city survives, and through careful management, shared wisdom, and quiet rituals, it will continue to do so tomorrow. The city has grown still, yet fire persists in every corner, faint and steady. From chimneys, thin streams of smoke curl toward the sky. Hearths burn low behind shuttered windows. Lanterns glow along streets, casting gentle pools of light. The distant monastery bell tolls slowly, each note resonating across rooftops, a reminder of time, vigilance, and the rhythm of life in this medieval place. You wander through narrow lanes, boots soft against the cobbles, noticing details you might have missed during busier hours. A bundle of herbs tied with red cord hangs above a doorway, its purpose part charm, part precaution. A water bucket rests beside another entrance. Rushes cover the floor of a half-lit inn, blackened from centuries of smoke. Every object, every arrangement, exists with intention, a subtle conversation between humanity and flame. Passing beneath the timbered archway, you notice the faint shimmer of coals beneath a low brazier. A woman leans close, whispering a prayer while adjusting its embers. Some swear she asks protection from lightning, others fire, some for luck, some for nothing at all. No one can fully agree, and yet her actions echo countless others across the city, careful attention repeated, centuries of practice distilled into daily habit. A dog, familiar from your travels, pads silently along the street, slipping between pools of lamplight. It pauses near a shuttered shop, sniffs the air, then continues on. Its calm contrasts with the vigilance of humans, yet its presence is part of the nocturnal rhythm, a companion to caution and care. Near a small chapel, a candle burns steadily beside a saint's carved image. Pilgrims and residents alike pause, crossing themselves or muttering soft prayers. Some believe these acts protect their homes, others simply find comfort in ritual. Either way, the effect is the same attentiveness to flame, mindfulness of risk, and a collective effort to preserve life amidst the fragile warmth that fire provides. You climb a short flight of stone steps to a vantage point overlooking the city. Roofs lean precariously, streets wind in shadowed patterns, and countless lights flicker in windows, courtyards, and workshops. The city appears calm, almost serene. Yet beneath the calm, the lessons of every inn, market, gatehouse, scriptorium, and storehouse ripple outward. Respect fire, prepare for fire, never assume safety, and never neglect vigilance. A faint breeze stirs, carrying the mingled scents of smoke, wet timber, and evening air. Somewhere nearby, a bell tolls again, a subtle signal of both passing time and continued watchfulness. You notice the way shadows move across walls, how lantern light dances upon stone, how embers glow in hearths unseen by casual eyes. Every detail speaks to centuries of learned behavior, rituals, and precautions, the invisible architecture of survival. The streets are emptying. Doors close quietly. Lanterns are adjusted one last time. The city, from the humblest cottage to the grandest keep, settles into night. Flames burn steadily, carefully, watched by those both asleep and awake. You feel the subtle pulse of awareness that threads through every household, every street, every watchful eye. You pause, taking in the quiet magnitude of this fragile balance. Fire has given warmth, light, sustenance, and caution. It has threatened, destroyed, and demanded attention. Life in this medieval city is intertwined with flame in ways both practical and ritualistic, habitual and sacred. Every ember is a story, every hearth a teacher, every candle a reminder of human vigilance against capricious danger. As you make your final steps toward your lodging, the city exhales. Smoke rises, lanterns glow, doors latch, and hearths crackle softly. The rhythm is slow, deliberate, and comforting. You realize that survival here does not depend on the absence of fire, but on the understanding that every flame carries both risk and life. Every night, this dance repeats. Every night, humans and fire coexist in careful equilibrium. You settle beneath a wool blanket, the embers of your own hearth glowing faintly beside you. Outside, the city rests but never truly sleeps. Smoke, lanterns, and watchful eyes maintain a quiet vigilance, and as the night deepens, the long shadow of centuries of human experience settles gently over rooftops, streets, and courtyards. Here, amidst warmth and risk, light and shadow, the city survives. The lessons of fire endure, and in this fragile balance, you understand the unbroken thread connecting every person, every building, every ember across the medieval world.